You hear it so much, it's almost cliche, where one idea changes everything. But here's the thing, and this is what you really got to get into your mind, is that it's absolutely true. I heard one time there was a billionaire, and I'll tell you a story of something that was a game changer for me. And it's something that you can use yourself. It's not like something like, oh, I figured something out, and then it's like, well, how do I use that? This is something you can actually do too. Whether you're work a job, run a business, whatever it is you do. Because I believe I have this idea, this is something I heard a long time ago too, that ideas are something that if I have an idea, I can use it and it works for me. And if I give you the idea, it's not like I give it to you and it's gone and then I can't use it anymore. It's the idea works for me, I give it to you, it works for you too. So now it's working for both of us. And the way I look at it is that um, if I give you an idea, or you give me an idea, or whatever, wherever you get the idea from, um, you can make a lot of money from it. But if you think of the grand scale, we're still so small and tiny that even if you give away your ideas, it doesn't make a dent in the universe where you could still profit from it. Other people can still profit from it. And for those of you too that watch my videos, you'll see my office is just an absolute mess right now because I'm redoing it. Long story, when it's finished, which should be in the next week or two, I'll give you a little tour. It'll be pretty cool. But anyways, I heard I heard a long time ago, one of the billionaires talked about, and I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was, no, I think it was Mark Cuban. I think he talked about um, where one idea or one thing can change everything going forward. So for example, if you have one big success, everyone forgets about all the failures you had. And typically anyone who's achieved anything or made any significant amount of money has had failure after failure after failure. I could tell you that from experience. I could tell you that from a lot of people I know. Anyone who's achieved anything significant has just failed many times. It's part of the process. You have to go through it. And as a matter of fact, with one of my sons, with my older son, he's still in high school, but he's kind of starting to get into business, and I'm trying to teach him a lot. And there's a part of me that feels like I know that you have to go through a lot of trials and error to figure stuff out. And I don't want him to go through that stuff. Like I don't want you to go through that stuff. That's why I'm trying to, I don't want you guys to go through all the stuff I had to go through. That's why I'm trying to, that's why I try to, give you as much information, as much try, I hate the cliches, but inside baseball. The stuff that, the books, I have an issue with a lot of the books that come out, especially the New York Times bestsellers, like those kind of books that everybody reads because number one, typically they're just filled with cliches and BS that you can't actually um, put to use. And second of all, well, actually, there's 3 points. Number two, if you're reading what everybody's reading, it's kind of hard to get a competitive advantage. Number three, most of those books don't tell you what real world business is and what it takes to succeed in real world business and in the real world. And that's the issue I have with a lot of those things. Now I'll tell you this. You know, excuse me. One of the things that was a game changer for me, and the thing is that again, it takes one transformative idea that just turns things for you. You can go from making, a few $100 a week to $1,000 a week, $1,000 to 2,000, 2,000 to 4,000, 4,000 and up. Whatever your number is. For me, it's this. And I'll tell you a cool backstory and a guy who even made a shitload of money doing this. And this is where I learned this idea from. I send my customers little gifts. Little gifts, okay? And when I tell you little gifts, I'm not talking about anything expensive. I might send, like for example, I'll send a $5, and it doesn't even have to be this expensive. And this is not expensive, but it could be less. I'll send someone a $5 Starbucks gift card. I'll send it just in a regular envelope, so it's very inexpensive to send. And it could be even, you could even send something less. And I'll tell you the significance of that. You say, well, it's $5 Starbucks gift card, big deal. I'll tell you this. I've been in business for 25 years. Well, I've actually technically been in my business for 25 years. I've been in business, running business, since I was 15 years old. Um, 15 years old, 16 years old, 17 years. Yeah, so 30 years. 30, 40, 50. I can't do math right now. Like, I don't know, I'm 45. I started when I was probably 15 years old, running business, right? And but in my business for since about 2000, actually a little bit before, so 25 years, whatever. And you know how many, and I do a good amount of business. I mean, I'm not Microsoft, right? But I do a decent amount of business. It's not insignificant. And you know how many gifts I've gotten over in 25 years? You know how many gifts I've got? Take a wild guess. One. You know what it was? It was a casino chip. I went to Vegas for a this is back in like 2005. I went to Vegas for a convention from my industry, and one of my suppliers was there that I did a lot of business with, and he gave me a he's like, oh hey Paul, what's going on, blah blah blah. He gave me a $5, because it was at Mandalay Bay at the time. He gave me a $5 Mandalay Bay casino chip. And I thought that was so cool. And it was nothing significant. It wasn't like, it's $5. What the hell does $5 give you? But it's something cool. Here I'm talking about it 20 some years later, right? It was cool. That's the only gift I ever got. And I can tell you this, that guy, it's not where I learned it from. I'll tell you a bigger story. But that guy who gave that to me, he was a little older than me. He ended up selling his business for a couple $1,000,000 a few years after that. I mean, he was a pretty a sharp guy. Um, and I was doing business with him. It was kind of cool because I was doing business with him when him and I were answering our own phones. It was kind of cool. But anyways, the guy I learned this from was actually a guy my dad worked for, back in the 80s. And what this guy would do, he ran a like a electrical wire supply company. Like, so for example, if they're building a building or whatever, he'd supply all the wire that wires that building, right? I mean, I don't know a whole lot about that, but that's what they did. And what this guy would do, he would send these jars, and I actually got one. I don't know where it's at because I'm remodeling my office, so stuff's kind of not packed, but things are covered and stuff because of the drywall dust, and I'm going to be painting and stuff, and they're doing the sanding and all that crap. But anyways, he would send these little jars, and they're just about that big, a little jar, had the company name on it, the phone number, and then he would put a pack of peanuts in it. Now, I don't know about sending peanuts nowadays because of all the peanut allergies and stuff. I mean, I don't send any and actually, I'll tell you another. God, that now I'm kind of. I'll tell you another really really cool story. But this one, he would send a pack of peanuts with these jars, and people would call up because my dad would tell me about this. People would call up and say, hey, they put their order and they'd be like, hey, can you send me another jar of the peanuts? Because they like the honey roasted peanuts, and I thought that was really cool. And the guy ended up selling his company. The company ended up going public. I can't remember if he took it public or if he sold it and the company that took it over took it public. But the guy he made tens of millions of dollars. He made a ton of money. And he ended up, buying a beautiful home in Florida and retiring. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff and here's the thing. You know why? It's because nobody does it. Nobody does it. Nobody does it. You understand that? Like, nobody does this. No one sends anything. So when you get something in the mail, and even if it's a $5 Starbucks card, you don't go, oh, $5, it barely gets me a coffee. No, you go, $5, that's cool. From a guy I buy a computer from, that's great. If you're in car sales, send a $5 gift card, a $5 Starbucks card, and they go, wow, I just bought a card from this guy. And they don't go, oh, I spent $50,000 on a car and all he sends me is $5. No, they go, wow, is that cool? You know why? Because the people have bought cars for 20 years of their life, they've never got anything. They never hear from the guy who sells them a car again. And all of a sudden they get a Starbucks gift card and, and a letter signed by the guy. Or if you're selling, you work at a jewelry place, a retail place, or you work in, computer sales, or you work in, um, I'm drawing a blank, but anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's your business or if you get commission, even if you work a job and you're getting commission, send the gifts to people. Get their name and number, and even if you're working a place and you don't want to, it's a little bit harder to get their information because your boss might get pissed, but you might say, hey, you know what? I'll send you, okay, you're buying this, whatever it is, and hey, you know what? If you jot down your address on the back of my business card, hey, I'll send you, a troubleshooting guide for that. Or I mean, it could be anything. Like if you're selling let's say you're selling jewelry, right? And you work for a company, but you get commission. Someone's buying a watch or something. You say, hey, you know what? You're buying this watch. Hey, oh, here's my business card. But on the back of it, jot down your address, and I'm gonna send you like a price guide for these kind of watches because they typically go up in value. I'll drop one in the mail to you. No charges. Just you have it. Just make it real simple, and then you can send them a gift card or whatever that business is. But it's really easy to get someone's address by just saying, "Hey, I'm going to send you something of value." And I'll send you a price list, or I'll send you a price guide, or like like for if you're selling jewelry, or if you're selling anything that might go up in value, or if you're selling a computer. If you're selling anything in computers, that's very easy because you say, and that's if you're in retail, right? If you're doing something in retail, because if you're shipping it to them, you got their address, so it's easy. But even if you're in retail and they're buying a computer or something, you say, hey, you know what? You're buying this computer. A lot of times they do. You might say, hey, jot down your address because a lot of times if they do upgrades, they might charge you $50 for an upgrade, for the software upgrade. But I'll drop it in the mail to you free of charge. I'll drop a link in the mail to you free of charge, so you know how to do it. Whatever it is, and it's just me thinking off the top of my head. They'll give you your address, and then you can again send them a gift card, send them a little note, send whatever. And that's a game changer because nobody does it. Nobody does it. One other thing I used to do. One other thing I used to do. I'd send like a little like a payday candy bar. And the payday candy bars, if you're familiar with it, they're like I don't know, they're real good. I love payday candy bars. And I'd say today's your lucky payday. You'll save, 100, even if you don't save $100, even if you don't, I forgot, today's your lucky payday, even if you don't, or you'll save $100 and whatever. And I'd send the candy bar. And I don't send them anymore because the peanut allergies are rampant, nowadays. So you don't know who's got them. But back in the day, it wasn't. If people had them, people didn't talk about it, or it didn't have. I don't know if I know people say, oh, it's because this and this. I don't. It doesn't matter. Whatever the reason is. It is. I don't send them anymore. But there's different things you can send. Like I said, I send the Starbucks gift card. Everyone loves coffee. And you know what? Here's a cool thing too, because even when I send the Starbucks card, I'll say, hey, here's a little way to say thank you. Grab a cup of coffee on your way to work tomorrow. And if you're not a coffee drinker, then pass it along. Pass it along to a friend or loved one who is a coffee drinker. Because I can tell you one thing. Most everyone loves Starbucks. Everyone, it's one of those places where everyone loves Starbucks, right? But if you're one of the few people, or your customer is one of those few people who doesn't like Starbucks, guess what? They got a daughter who likes Starbucks, or they got a cousin who likes Starbucks, or they got a best friend who likes Starbucks, or they've got a wife who likes Starbucks, or they've got a husband who likes Starbucks. And it doesn't. And here's the thing. It doesn't even matter because even if they don't like it, they appreciate it. They get in the mail, they thank you, and they go, "Wow, that's pretty cool." No one has ever sends me anything cool. And again, it's that bond. It's another bond with your customer because no one else does. Again, no one else does this stuff. And see that's a little things. And this is one of the things too where you don't. No one tells you this stuff. You're not going to read a book on. You're not going to read a book. that's in the bookstore that tells you this stuff. You're just not gonna. People will say, "Oh, you gotta be like Elon Musk, and you gotta do this and this and this and this and this." Well, guess what? You know how many Elon Musks there are? One. You know how many richest guys in the world there are? One. You know how many billionaires in this world there are? I don't even know in the world. In the U.S. there's, I don't even know, maybe 500, 1,000. I don't know, whatever. But if that's your ambition, that's another thing, right? But you don't have to make $1 billion. You probably don't want to make $1 billion. Maybe you do, but you don't have to. You can make a few $100,000 and you can be king of the world. If you make a few $100,000 in this year, next year, sure you'll be king of the world in your world. You'll be king of the world or queen of the world. Whatever it is. But these little things are the things that make the difference, and this is stuff that people will never tell you. They'll never tell you this because for two reasons. Number one, because no one does it, and number two, if someone does do it, usually they're not going to tell you because they don't want to share. They don't want to give away profitable ideas. And number three, it's stuff that even if people share it, you know, not everyone wants to hear it because people want to hear the easy stuff. The popular thing is get up at 4 a.m. Go run 4 miles at 4 a.m. And not that I'm saying that's bad. If it works for you, it works for you, right? Um, I was talking to my actually we'll just finish on this, and this is a completely unrelated topic. I was talking to my uncle this past weekend because we went to a graduation party, and I ran into my uncle who's run a business forever, and he was telling me we were talking. It was me, him, and one of my cousins, and my cousin's older. He's like 60, and he's retired. He actually just retired at the beginning of the month. And my uncle was there. He was talking about, my cousin was talking about how he gets up early and works out. And my cousin's a real disciplined guy. He worked for a company, and he was good with his money, and he's got enough money where he's just retiring, and he'll be fine, right? And my uncle said, you know what? When I was 52, when I was in my 50s, my doctor told me to get on or I don't know if actually I take that back. I don't know if his doctor said, but he said I was on a workout routine. I was working out every morning. I was working out every day, running 2 miles a day, blah, blah, blah. He's like, and I had a massive heart attack at 52, and he's like, then I stopped, and I haven't since. Then he's 75, and not that makes any difference in this video. I just thought it was interesting because, and I actually had a health issue because from work, and that's something we'll talk about. I'll talk about it in a different video. I haven't talked about that, but it was actually as a result of working out. I had a major health issue, and that's one of those things where to this day I kind of wear it, and I'm getting way off topic. Like working out makes me worried. That I'm like, am I better off not working out? But anyways, what my point in all this is that the glamorous stuff is for someone to yell at you and say get up at 4 a.m. and work from 4 a.m. But no, that's I'm not saying don't do it, or maybe it doesn't work. I'm sure it works, but this is the stuff that if you want to make a little bit more money, this is the stuff to do.